The topic, the title of the message today is gaining discernment and avoiding snares. Gaining discernment and avoiding snares. And just before those of you that are, and because I never do this, but those making sure as you're praying for a flow of a blessing, make sure you stay up on your offerings and your gifts because it goes together. If we can do all this work on the phone, and then the enemy still is allowing to cause fear or what's the word, or hesitation on giving unto the Lord, then you're still going to be stuck. So you got to flow. You have to flow. All the areas of who you are have to flow. You have to flow in as unto the Lord to Him. Because if you look at your budget and go, or you look at anything that God is doing for you and go, ooh, and you start rationalizing in your own mind, you're going to get the fruit of what your rational mind could acquire. But if you start functioning in the supernatural, where He is telling you to do, to offer, to all of that information, I can't help you on that. God is the one that will, He's the one that releases. I can only tell you, but He will not go past where you're not husband and wife. And your wife is telling you, babe, I need $20 for groceries, and you give her $18 and go figure out the other $2. That's not love. Same thing with the Lord. If you trust Him, you trust Him. If you don't trust Him, then all this other stuff won't matter. If you're still functioning under your knowledge base, if you're still functioning on what you can do logically, then you have not gone into the faith area. So faith, I can't see it, but I'm going to obey God and do it. That's what it always is. You can't see it. It's going to be beyond that. So that's just in this supernatural flow that we're doing. All the stuff I'm telling you right now, it won't matter if you cannot release to Him in the spirit realm of your resources. And I was one of those that sat in church, like I told you before, never wanted to be a part. I was like, oh, here he goes trying to get my little $20. But that's not what that's about. It's about in the realm, operating in the supernatural realm. So just let you know that. So He hasn't. I don't get on here and tell you guys that all the time, but I'm telling you because He's just telling me. It don't matter what you can. We have people. We have. And I don't know if they're still there and here now, but we've had people on the prayer line that, I mean, not 5 cents ever, and they just all up in the mix. And that you ain't gonna get blessed like that. That's flesh. The spirit is where because that's flesh. So, and then we have some that you don't hear that much from, and they're tithing and they're offering in the presence of God. And that's where the blessing is. It's not about us hearing the person. It's about God seeing the behind the scenes real deal of what they're really all about. So just saying that, this won't work if you ain't working the other part as well. Okay, Getting back over into discernment. What is that? Discernment is a human mind can be very influenced, literally like a transmitter radio. If you keep seeing something or hearing something, ultimately it'll start coming out of your mouth, and because you'll absorb it. So what does discernment mean? Discernment means paying attention to what you eat in the spirit realm, paying attention to what you hear. The enemy can use people that are not discerning. You can be appear to be very, very spiritual, but if you can't look at stuff and tell by the Spirit of God the truth and the lie, that means your picker is off, and you can't hear. And so you have to here it is. If I wanted to measure a color, a swatch, I would take a swatch of fabric and then put it next to But if I was trying to get a color like a color purple or a blue or a color that can have several variations of it, I can't trust my eyeball to look at the sample piece and then walk around all through the stores and pick that exact color. I can't trust my eyeball to do that because you'll see so much, whatever the color is, that you'll start getting confused on the pick because you can't discern. And so I have to take the swatch with me and then hold it up against it. And there, does it meet the standard? I hold it up against it. That's the word of God. You hold it up against things that are happening in your life. Does it measure up so that you can not lose your picker? You cannot lose track of what you're talking about. You can, if you go to the perfume counter and you can smell one or two by the time, and then the level of what you're smelling. If you smell something really strong, then it's hard to smell that lighter cologne because you got a nose blind, that they call that on the commercial. You can get word blind too. You can listen to so much mess, ooh, look at this, ooh, look at that, and you will get confused. And you are honestly confused. You're not trying to be confused. You just can't. Your nose doesn't work anymore. Why? Because that's why they have those little cups of coffee beans sitting by the counter so you can smell the coffee beans and kind of rinse your nose so that you can now smell the next smell to know if that's what you're supposed to be wearing. Same thing in the spirit realm. If you picking and looking and watching every single thing and you can't discern, then that's how you get to that point of you picking, eating everything, and then you are confused because it all sounds good. It all sounds right. Why does it all sound right? Because you have not looked at your word. And people, especially discerning your fruit, is how you discern. You can discern by fruit. Just people can say all the right things with the wrong spirit. They can read the Bible, but have unforgiveness in their heart. So it's more than just what's on the outside; it's what's happening on the inside. Discernment is one of the single most important things you need to know to have to discern the move and the voice of God. You got to have a good picker. You got to know that's God, that's not God. You got to know that in your spirit or you will be misled. There's a verse that says the very elite can be misled. You can be misled if you're eating everything. If you're doing everything, you can't see. You can't see. Like example, you go look at sun, you be in the bright sunlight, and then you go into a room that's darker. You can't see because your eyes have not adjusted to where you are. If you're listening and looking at every single thing, sometimes I'll listen to a message and I go, that's not true, and I will turn it off because I don't want to hear them getting ready to start doing a logical explanation on why you can't speak in tongues or why the Spirit of God isn't healing anymore today or why this is that and why, and all kind of stuff. Because if you listen to it, they'll pick out enough scriptures, and you don't have somebody may not have discerning in their spirit to know if it's of God. Bishop Jakes talked about I think it's called "The Rain Is Coming." I'm not sure what the title was last Sunday. And Elijah told his servant to go out and look. Elijah knew rain was coming. This ties into what I was talking about being a prophet. You can't hear everything. You can only hear from God. You got to really guard your ears because he might speak softly. And you got to hear the soft voice and you got to hear the loud voice. You got to hear him however he's bringing it. And you have to protect your ears, especially protect your ears. I'm going to go into that just a second. Elijah was, let me just put this down. I'll give you some examples of what discernment is. I'm going to say a chef, a musician, a teacher, and a Okay, a chef, if I get another one, a chef, a musician, a doctor. Professions I'm going to talk about this just a second. And you being a man or woman of God, you are professional in what you're doing. You're not sitting here because of you just getting entertained. You're sitting here because you are in at a certain level in the presence of God. So um, in who was it? What was I just talking about? The first one before I got to this one.
You were talking about T.D. Jakes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. T.D. Jakes was talking about Elijah, and Elijah had had his servant go look. Now Elijah had already got a word. Now once you get a word, the enemy's going to come and say, "You don't have a word. You don't know what you're talking about." And he'll start challenging you on what you know to be true. And all the circumstances might, at the immediate beginning, start to go contrary to what you heard God say, to the point you'll be like, oh, maybe. And see, that's why you got to know what you know, what you know. Old prophet, young prophet. You got to know what you know, what you know. You can't let somebody come and tell you a different truth. And then because you lack discernment, you're off to the races in the wrong direction. Very important. Better you stayed home than to get out here fighting warfare. You don't have the gift of discernment. You better know what you're listening to, and you better know what you're hearing, or you will be deceived. And then the next step after being deceived is to try to take somebody with you on the journey of deception. It's serious. So with T.D. Jakes, Elijah said, go look. And he had to tell the man to go look 7 times. He went 7 times, so it didn't just fall into place the first time. It was nope, nothing. Let's just see what that looks like. Elijah's sitting there, and this is what he talked about on Sunday. I'm just going to take a little and explain what he was saying. Elijah put his head on his knees and told him, and he already knew. He already gave a word to the king, get ready. I smell the sound of rain, a mighty rain. And then he said, and he put his head on his knees, and he said, go look at that first time. Nope, come back, I don't see nothing. Now just think about it. The Lord tells you something's going to happen, and you have said what you're supposed to say and done what you're supposed to do. Now you're waiting. Just think about how your face will start feeling a certain kind of way. And he goes, okay, you're sitting there, I don't see nothing. Wait a while. Okay, go look now. I don't see nothing. He comes back, he don't see nothing. Second time. Waited a while. Okay, go look now. Still don't see nothing. On the third time. Now, by now, your friends is calling you. Well, where is it? Where's this thing God told you was going to happen? Okay. You're still sitting there praying, Lord. Okay, go look now. Nope. And now the servant the servant's just obeying because that's what his job is. But he ain't really. He's like, I don't know. It still ain't nothing. And no, it's still nothing. Like, why you keep asking me? 5th time, go look. Nothing. 6th time. This is what you got to. Travailing before God on his word, what he said. You're not travailing because you don't believe God. It's like what Daniel had to do. You have to press in because there's warfare in the heavenlies that you can't see. The enemy's trying to pull it out your hand, and you hold on to it. You got to hold on to it. And 6th time, go look. Nope, I don't see nothing. Wait a little bit longer. We 6 times. I don't know how long it went on. But he know he had a word, and it doesn't yet appear. Nothing he said doesn't appear nowhere, on no how, nothing. 7th time. See, we know because we're reading the story post, but Elijah didn't know if it was going to be 7 times or 21 times. He had no idea if that's on the 7th go out that was going to be it. He had no idea. He just kept looking, standing in expectation. And so then he saw him 7 times. Because he don't know. He might be prepared to do it 20 more times. And he goes out, and the servant comes back, and he says, well, I see a cloud. It's about the size of a man's fist, meaning it ain't really nothing, but it is something up there, but not like what you talking about. I just see a little cloud. And you talking about rushing sound of heavy rain, and I'm just telling you, I just see a little cloud. And Elijah's face, discernment. That's it. jumps up, starts shouting like it already happened. That's it. That's it. That's it. And he go tell King, I don't know his name, get it ready and get it so he doesn't get overtaken by the rain. He's still talking big with a cloud the size of a man's fist. But guess what happened? The king did that and got his chariots and started rolling back down the hill. And Elijah, the story goes on to tell you, Elijah girded up his thing and ran past the chariots. That's a whole another conversation unto itself. But the point is, Elijah sat there and looked discernment, expert hearing in the presence of God. So a chef has expert taste buds in his mouth. He can taste something and go, I need some of this and some of that. A sommelier, which is a wine expert, you know how you take people, put wine in their mouth and swish it around? I taste, and you just barely tasting the wine, and you taste red wine, white wine, whatever, but you just taste wine with your hillbilly taste buds because you don't know. I'm joking, but I'm serious. You don't know what you're looking at. But an expert, men and women of God, that knows how God moves and is familiar with the Spirit of God, has become a connoisseur of the movement of God, can discern subtle moves when nobody else can see it. So a sommelier will go, I taste cinnamon, I taste lilac, I taste, if it's a burgundy wine, he tastes a certain kind of wood. I can he tastes the dirt. He tastes everything in that tasting, and it might be 20 different influences he pulls out of the one swish of wine in his mouth, because his taste buds have evolved to a point of discernment where he knows what he's tasting. That's one example. A chef can smell something and then taste something and know what's missing and how much. You don't use a measuring cup. He just scoops up some little salt powder, and then it's done. Because it's discernment. Because his palate has developed to key in on tasting food, and then a specific type of food. And you have chefs that know how to roast or barbecue, but they don't know how to bake. You have those that know how to bake, but they don't know how to make soup. You know, those that know how to call it a roux. They know how to really specialize in a roux, but they're not any good on pastry. And then you have those that can do pastry, but they can't do anything else, because you have specialty chefs within the world of being a chef that you really know your stuff, your substance. You really start keying in on the substance. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, with the evidence of things not seen. You got to work on your faith. Substance. You got to start doing stuff. That's why he got you guys on this money thing, because I am going to be working only with people of substance, because I need substance to flow. Because it costs millions, if not billions, by the time we get finished with this thing. So you can't be five and diming it thinking you're going to walk all the way up into that space where we're talking about. It ain't going to happen. You got to be giving now like you know what you're doing, because God got to get the flow. He has to get you used to doing it, because you have to be used to getting it all the way in there. You got to be used to doing that so you can so he can give in the abundance that's a flow. And flow ain't going to happen if you can't see that. If you get stuck on that, pray for it. Pray for the release. Because it has nothing to do how much you have. Because if you have a poverty mentality, that's what he's trying to break. A poverty mentality, it runs in fear. I don't have enough. I don't have enough. I'm not going to have enough. And then you will not have enough, because you're thinking that way. Flow means I have this, and Lord, I'm looking into the unseen, and I don't know where it's going to come from, but it will be here. It'll be from sources unknown and unseen. Can't even think about it. That little boy that was lost, who came and found him, from what I understand, they don't even live in the same state. They don't know him. He didn't know who was going to come find him. That was an unknown rescue. For he didn't know the people that were coming to rescue him, but God sent him. Example, he didn't say, "Let me get my cell phone," or I hope Aunt such and such. He was a foster child. So, and his parents wasn't even his foster parents weren't even out there looking for him. Like that, they didn't find him. God had it set up exactly like it was supposed to happen. Nobody could have known how that was going to happen, how that miraculous was going to fit and come into play, how the pieces were going to fit together. Likewise, the same thing. God's doing miracles in your life. You trying to figure it all out. And as long as you are holding on, you will not. There, we have already done a cutaway. And the reason I'm going to just tell you, people praying over these prayer lines and praying over the big things that we're having to move, they got to be movers and shakers. They got to trust God. They got to know what they know, what they know. With the AKA, we got to grow up in this thing. You got to be people that have come in and said, okay, I got $10. God's going to turn this into 100, that's 100 into 1,000, 1,000 into 100,000, and into 1,000,000. You got to be able to move it around in the spirit realm and understand how God, you plant, reap, plant, reap, plant, reap, plant, reap, and sometimes you plant and reap and turn it over 3 or 4 times before you really get what you're supposed to have. People have sown airplanes and pulled back a jet, sowing and pulling, and that's how the flow has to happen. So that when we get to, and I don't know how he's going to do it, when we get to that next level, you won't even be in the process if you're not operating like that. Some are, we got a lot of them are, a lot of people are, and some are not. God can, like the widow's mites, is relevant to you, but you let me say this, because I'm just a human being, I'm just a person. But when I tell you, God tells you sow and tithe, he is on the other side, inside, listening to your thoughts when you sitting there going, I don't know if I can do that. He heard you. That's what he's trying to release. He's trying to get into where you are discerning the move of God on your own, and you jump into the flow. If you hesitate every time you jump into the flow, you ain't going to be in that next battle when they are reaping big, big buffalo. You ain't gonna be reaping unless you sowing with your faith. That's what he's doing. He's trying to shake it out of you. You're not giving money to Clear Passage or me. You're not giving money to me. You're giving money to his purpose. And he wants you and him having that conversation. I promise you, and I know this, I'm not saying this for anybody specific. I'm just giving an example because people will hear this recording. He needs to know that he can give it to you and that you will release it. I have literally prayed in big amounts of money into people's lives because they said, if I get this amount, I'm going to give that amount. We prayed, they got that amount, and they go, oh, can't do it. Bye. And fine, it's no problem. The Lord sent it another source. But that's what he's trying to get. He is participate in the flow. It is for some reason, I do not know, maybe I'll know when I get to heaven, why anointing, oil, silver and gold, blessings is all a package deal. It all comes together. It's not one piece. And so the reason I'm saying that is he will not have anybody praying over his processes if they are not a giver. Because that what they're saying is, I trust God, but not really. And there it's like somebody telling you, I need your limb to grow, but I'm going to constrict it because I'm going to squeeze the blood out your limb, and then I still expect it to go. No. You have to flow in everything. And that's your faith has to flow in everything. That's what God is doing. He's not, and this is his word. And when I tell you it's his word, Solomon was a giver and Solomon was a receiver because they go together. So I am praying in generals. I am praying in, we have to have world leaders are going to be a process. This is big, and it starts with a consistency, and it starts with the priest, and it starts with a consistency. So you have to be in with God to the point where you're hearing and you're listening. That's why this discernment is so important. So getting back over here, teachers. Teachers look at students and go, let me see what time it is. Oh my God, I'm way over. Okay, we're going to go, I didn't know it was that late. Teachers look at students, and we're going to pick up part 2 tomorrow on this. Teachers look at students and they can tell which ones are going to, and it has nothing to do with how the student's acting. She knows how they're paying attention. She reads their papers. She knows the substance of students. And so tomorrow, I'm going to draw a line right here. We're going to talk about musicians and doctors, and you're going to read your scriptures on discernment. If you can't discern, discernment is your navigational skills in a jungle. And if you do not have discernment, you will fall into a snare. And that's why at this level of what we're doing, you must be discerning always. And it's never going to get easy. It's never going to get easy. You just get used to producing. You will get used to stepping up. You will get used to, God has to do this. Okay, this is my part. You build great ministries because people push into that next realm, not because it just falls out the sky and it's just there. You got to push and push to the next level, push into uncomfortable to get to that thing to happen. So so we're going to do, I had no idea it was already 8:33, but tomorrow we are going to start right here, and we're going to do musicians and doctors, and then I'm going to talk about snares. And I can tell you there's a consistency. It's like a pattern. You have people that go, oh, they're all over the place. They're so excited all over the place, and they can't bust a grape. And then you have those consistent, and that consistency will win out a spur of enthusiasm anytime. Consistent, because God can grow a consistency. He'll meet you at the same spot and start developing what you're doing. So this is why I'm saying get in. We want to go deep. We don't want to go far before we go deep. We want to go deep so you have an understanding. God will be sending and functioning at a level we might be talking to, like I say, world leaders. We might be talking. We don't know who will be on this prayer line. We don't know who we'll be praying with. But I can tell you one thing. They're going to be consistent in it, and they're going to be releasing to God every aspect of their life. Their free will, they're going to release it to God. Their finances, they're going to release it to God. Their intellectual understanding, they're going to release it to God. Their courage, they're going to release it to God. He has to have everything. You're not going to give him everything and keep it back and think. God don't function like that. Everything front and center, he has to have it like that.